This is Teen Empowerment.
It's
a series of webisodes.
We will be covering a number of topics such as health, finance, college readiness, and even some mental illness related things like depression that can affect teens. While we did find experts, please make sure to consult your own doctor. What works for the general public might not work for you, and we don't want anyone to get hurt or sued.
Especially us. But take into consideration also that these episodes are not just directed towards teens. They can help the general public and people of all ages. Well, except maybe babies and toddlers and younger children and the elderly near death. But we will have fun on these episodes, and each one will have a different twist. So stay tuned. Our first episode is coming up. Hey guys!
Today we're going to be meeting with Mr. Williamson, a licensed professional counselor. He's going to tell us all about relationships and how those can interact. This is kind of a lengthy interview, but it was full of so much good information that we decided to make it a couple of parts. Enjoy!
What are some qualities that make a relationship healthy?
Well, a healthy relationship, just in general, I think it's important just to know that, we are created for relationships. So we are relational beings, and so as we're relational beings, we all have a need for each other. And so we're also really unique people. And so out of that, there's a real value that we bring regardless of our differences. In fact, it's our differences that oftentimes really helps to make relationships special because it's in those differences that we're not all the same. And so we each have strengths that we bring, to those relationships. How that relationships are healthy is not pressuring ourselves to be different than who we are. Another thing is just mutual respect. Mutual respect is really important because it's a way in which we add value to each other in ways that we talk to each other, ways that we interact with each other, words that we choose, behaviors that we choose. Just recognizing that we want to, in a sense, say, you matter to me, and so I want to treat you in that manner. Another general quality that makes a relationship healthy is really having healthy communication. And this is one, maybe as we talk, we may go into a little more about that. But I would just say in general, healthy communication is so important because, it's something that we're going to do every day. And in closer relationships, healthy communication is something we're going to use to deepen those relationships. And so learning how to actually express your emotions and express your opinions about things, and even when they're different, sometimes that's hard, but it's really important in a healthy to have healthy communication in a relationship. And another, I would say, just in general, is just to be willing to help each other. One of the things about relationships that draw off of that we are all relational beings is that we're going to need each other. And so being able to be a part of somebody else's life is important because it shows them that you care, and it shows them that you're interested. And sometimes those are the very things that kind of glue those relationships together and make it more special. And then I would say the last thing in general is just that there is a willingness as well as having an ability to work through conflict. Because if you have relationships, you're going to have conflict. And if you don't do that, then sometimes people think, well, I'll just dodge the conflict. But when you dodge the conflict, the problems don't go away. They're just kind of put off somewhere. And so the thing that really helps is where we learn how to actually deal with conflict in a way that problems get addressed and they're worked through and then they're gone. And then the relationship actually can be a stronger relationship.
What qualities would be more in a romantic relationship than just a general? Like, what would you need to look for?
It's really important. Romantic relationships are kind of exciting, I just have to say. Like when I think back, to when I was growing up, romantic relationships, there were just some really fun things about that. And healthy relationships that are romantic are really important because you're kind of entering into this thing where you're setting the stage really for at one point later in life actually doing marriage, actually doing family. And so these romantic relationships are really important. But I would say it's kind of like this. Romantic relationships in some ways can be kind of like whitewater rafting. I grew up in Tennessee and we had these huge rapids and I can remember going and being a part of that, and they were exhilarating, but they were also, you had to be careful because they can really hurt you. And romantic relationships can feel that way. They can have that rush of adrenaline, and there are rocks along the way that you can kind of run into, and that can be things like conflict. You can really do some damage sometimes in romantic relationships because you can feel so vulnerable. And so when it comes to romantic relationships, one of the things that I like to say just at the very beginning is they're not for everybody. Not everybody enjoys whitewater rafting, and yet somebody else may love it. And sometimes when it comes to romantic relationships, people feel like if I'm going to be normal, then I need to be in a romantic relationship. And they feel pressure. And what's not good about that is because sometimes they end up giving themselves up just to be in a romantic relationship, even if they don't like the person. And so one thing I would just say is they're not for everybody, and it's okay if you're not in one. But a few things, let's say if you're in a romantic relationship, there are a few things that are important. One thing is just boundaries. Boundaries are basically, it's kind of like a fence in your backyard. It basically lets you know kind of here's where my property is, here's kind of where I am, and where the next neighbor's yard starts. And so in a romantic relationship, there are two unique people and they're coming together to be in a relationship. So it needs to be mutual, but you need to have some boundaries so that you know for yourself what you like and what you don't like. So you can say yes to some things and no to other things. And it's really important in a romantic relationship to be able to do that because, there will be some things that you really need to say, I don't like that. Or there may be some things that you would say, I would really like that. And so it keeps both people able to be individuals, but coming together for a romantic relationship. So another thing is infatuation. I want to talk about that because it's one of those areas of romantic relationships that can really be like kind of jumping into the rapids and just being carried down the river, helpless and just being taken wherever the current carries you. And infatuation can be that way because it feels so good. There's actually part of the brain, and when you're in this place of infatuation, you feel just caught up in love, you feel just caught up in the energy, and you get distracted, and it feels so good that when you're in that place, sometimes you lose perspective. And so it's really important with infatuation that you're intentional about kind of stepping out of that so that there's more to the relationship than just this rush of great feelings. And so some of that would be, for instance, to nurture the friendship. And that's a really important thing because, for a couple in a romantic relationship to understand that it's a friendship. It's a relationship where it's romantic, but it has this foundation of, we like each other and we enjoy spending time with each other. It's something where there might be some activities that we do that each of us like. It would be important to get to know that person, hang out with their family, really find out what's their world like. And be interested in some of the things that they enjoy, their hobbies, some of those kind of things, just activities that maybe their family does that you can join in, and it really helps the friendship to grow. And one thing that's really important is when you're in a romantic relationship, be sure that you keep your friendships going. I've seen so many people where what ends up happening is a romantic relationship starts and it almost becomes like their life. and they lose some of the friendships that they had before that romantic relationship started. And you can just know that's like a warning. You know, that's like kind of a light on the dashboard of a car saying you need to be careful, because your friendships are really important, and they help you to not spend too much time in those romantic relationships. And then also, which just kind of goes with that, is just don't be each other's life. Enjoy the romantic relationship. It is different than any other relationship, but your life is not that relationship. There's family, there's other friends, there's other activities, and there will be time, for the romantic relationship. So, one last thing I would say I'd like to talk about is just affection. Affection is one of those things in romantic relationships that oftentimes it's going to start to change from whatever affection was like in your family or maybe with friends. But now it's in a romantic setting, and that starts to feel different, and it starts to feel really good, and it's supposed to. Again, there are certain neurochemicals in the brain that gets released when there's affection, and so it feels really good. You enjoy it, you want more of it, and what's interesting is, as that happens, we now, because we can study the brain better, when you're caught up in the infatuation and the affection, then that's a part of the brain that's kind of in the middle of the brain. The outside is more where we do our thinking, and what we know is that we actually think less when we're caught up in all that. So it's so important, because affection can feel so good that you can just get lost in it, and you stop thinking real well. So like we were talking about boundaries, there can be boundaries for affection where you've decided, when it comes to affection, here's the touching that's okay, here's the touching that's not okay. But if you don't decide that, or if you get so caught up in affection, then sometimes you just lose perspective of that. And you may say, well, this touch isn't okay. But you might get caught up in it, and then when you're caught up, you might change your mind and go, well, this feels so good, I think this touch is okay now, and so you might change your boundary. So deciding on those outside is really important. And then also, they need to be mutual. Like couples need to decide, what are those for us? How are we going to express affection in a way that we're both comfortable with? And again, so important, never pressured. It's just so important that not one person or the other says, well, if you really loved me, you would be okay with this touch. Or, I really think this touch is okay, I can't believe you don't. Any of those kinds of things where there's kind of this pressure, that's just not good for the relationship. So affection is really fun, but you have to be careful that it doesn't get out of balance. And then probably the final thing with affection is some people will use affection because it feels so good to actually avoid dealing with problems. So some people, because maybe they don't think they're very good at dealing with problems, they won't actually deal with their emotions, deal with their hurt or their anger. They'll just lean on affection to kind of make it better, and we won't really then go back and talk about the actual problem. And so in a romantic relationship, it's very important for couples to actually talk about what is going on in the relationship instead of using affection to maybe kind of bypass it.
Thank you so much for watching our videos.
If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below in the comment section, or even message us on Facebook.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your suggestions too, if maybe you want another video made about some other topic that we can help you out, like picking out cool stuff for your dorm room.
We are both going through the college dorm room experience at the moment, and we would love to answer any questions about preparing for that experience, getting through it, or any advice on how to make it easier.
Yeah, so just let us know what you think. Thank you so much for watching.